Fox 19 Now presents Movies with Mitchell on Fox 19 Now Plus.
Hello and welcome to Movies with Mitchell, where we are bringing cinema to the Queen City. I'm Caroline Gerhart.
And I'm Mitchell Davey.
All right, we have a really exciting topic today. You got to go to Sundance.
Yes.
I mean, the pinnacle of all film festivals.
Really, yeah.
When you think about a film festival, the first thing that comes to your mind is Sundance. But you got to experience it in a really cool way. You got to do it virtually. Tell me all about how you got to be a part of this and kind of what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I've been Sundancing for the past few years. My first one was back in 2022, which was still under COVID restrictions, which is where they kind of did that virtual off the bat.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it alternating both Park City and virtual ever since. I got to go out to Park City before. Unfortunately, it's moving to Boulder next year, so I got to experience it in its peak form, but exciting to see what that will hold in store for next year for sure.
Well, and I know we're a little salty here in Cincinnati because we were on the list,
so
the short list for a while. We made it through a few rounds of that short list.
We made it to the final round,
So I know we're all like, it would be so much fun if it was here, but it's fine. They decided to stay on the West Coast, whatever. But talk to me about how it goes virtually, because I feel like that's something that I knew that they did it during COVID, but I don't think I realized that they continued offering it as an option.
So
after.
for press, they do both virtual and in person. So I lucked out to get a virtual accreditation this year. So I got the screeners of all the films that I selected. There were so many to select. I had to miss out on some that I was really looking forward to. I've been managed to see over, I think it was 25 different films at this year's festival. So a good balance, I'd say.
That is crazy. And so when you say you got the films, like, is it a link? Like, I'm so interested in that part of it. Like, how does that work?
So it's like they host an online portal that you can download on like Apple TV or Roku, for example, as an app, and then there they populate it with the films that you select on like your ticketing portal.
That's so interesting. Okay, cool. Because I was like, are they sending? I'm like, I don't know why I'm thinking like in physical media, but like, oh, they're sending them a DVD, because I'm sure it's so under wraps because obviously you have to.
They take security very seriously here, so you got to make sure you're like really locked down and really secure about it.
I know. And speaking of, so we don't, lots of these trailers, there's no trailers out really yet for any of these films, so you're really kind of getting a first-hand look here at what's to come for the next year in film. You picked 10 movies, which I'm like very proud of you. 10 out of 25 is still like
really
a
hard.
major feat. Yeah. So talk to me. The first one is called Hanging by a Wire. It's a documentary, right?
Yes, it is. So people sometimes put on documentaries if they want to relax, really get into a story that's true to life and say, oh, this is really wholesome.
Yeah.
This is not that movie. This is a documentary that will stress you out beyond belief, but it's all the better for it.
Okay, so by this still that they gave us, tell me about what's happening here.
So Hanging by a Water is a true story of a group of school children in the Himalayas who take a cable car to the other side of the valley for school every day. However, one day a disaster strikes when the cable snaps completely, leaving the car tilted on its side in midair as the kids hang on for their lives. And it's a story about how they recovered them from that, because it is literally them hanging over this giant canyon for over, I'd say, I think it was 18 hours in total.
So because this is a documentary, was there a film crew there, or this was taken the footage was taken after?
This was a pretty big deal in the Himalayas, as the documentary kind of details. There were a lot of news crews on the scene, a lot of people filming. So it's a nice balance of news footage, drone footage. People actually flew their drones up to the cable car, and you can see in the film them looking back at the drone, just like trying to hang on for their lives.
My gosh.
So it's a really different documentary, and how it really places you into that viewpoint and makes you really feel like you're there, which definitely gets your palms sweating at times. I was really nervous at several moments of this, but it's so much fun.
I know that. Usually I am the person, I'm like, okay, put on a documentary.
It's so
especially
nice,
as a journalist, like I like to watch like true crime documentaries and things like that. Yeah, this is definitely not the same situation. What did you rate this one?
I give this one a 3.5 out of 5. I think there's only so much you can do with this premise after the first 20 minutes of it being like, oh my gosh. It really does kind of drag in the middle, but the beginning and the end, where it kind of details how they got in a situation, how they get out, is very tense, very pulse pounding, and definitely is the highlight of this film.
Okay, love it. Okay, that's going on my list too. Hot Water is the next one that we're talking about. Tell me about the premise for this.
So this one is a road trip kind of drama. It's become a joke that every year at Sundance is usually one of these films in there. But this opens with a mother in Bloomington, Indiana, who receives word that her son Daniel is out of a college expelled. He has only limited options, so he has to drive out to California to go to college with his father, and it's about them traveling from Indiana to California on a cross-country road trip where they discover more about themselves and each other in the process.
Okay, cool. And who are the actors in this?
So this has Lubna Azabal and Daniel Zogardi. Luna has been in a lot of different movies, including Denis Villeneuve's Incendies. So if you've seen that film, she's the mother in there. She really knocks it out of the park here as well.
Yeah, and so tell me about the whole road trip trope. I think it can be overdone.
Yeah.
Obviously with Sundance too, Little Miss Sunshine premiered at
Yes,
Sundance.
classic
and that's
example.
like the classic
Yeah.
road trip movie. It has become one of the classic road trip movies, I think. But how does this kind of turn it on its head a little bit?
Yeah, I'd say this is very wholesome and sweet for a lot of it. I think it really has a natural dynamic where you think they're real people going on this journey and it really comes across as grounded. I'd say that the last 30 minutes though takes a departure that will not be everyone's thing. It kind of turns from a road trip drama to something else entirely. Definitely will be something that audiences will have to kind of gauge for themselves whether I like this or not.
Interesting. Okay, and with that, what did you rate it?
I gave this, I believe it was a 3.5 as well. I think for the majority of the film, I was really into it, really grounded. I really wish it was building up to something better than it is. Really wasn't a fan of that ending, but mileage may vary.
Interesting. Okay, cool. All right, this next one, I'm so excited to talk about. I told Mitchell, like, when I saw this, I was so ready to chat about it. The musical, starring one of my favorite people of all time, Rob Lowe. Tell me what it's about. Because the premise, the plot, like, when I got to read what the plot was about, I was like, this sounds so much fun.
Yeah, so this is the movie at Sundance this year where when you go into these with only one-sentence summaries, you really don't know what to expect. I walked in this film and my jaw was hanging open for the majority of the runtime.
Oh my gosh.
It follows a middle school drama teacher named Doug who really discovers one day that his ex-girlfriend has started dating the principal of his school, who is Rob Lowe, who is Doug's nemesis. He realizes that the principal wants to earn like a blue ribbon status at the school this year, but he decides to sabotage it by making the musical about a tragedy. Okay, and as I like joke, a recovering theater kid, I feel like there's probably a lot in this that film enthusiasts and theater nerds, as I describe myself, will be able to love. That movie Theater Camp with Ben Platt. Very similar, but
Molly Gordon.
It's kind of like that, but with a dark twist on it. So I'd say if you want a dark comedy that's that style, this is the film for you.
Okay, and so you said this was shocking. Were there things that were intentionally put in to be shocking? Like what, because you know, sometimes you see in certain films, it's like, oh, I'm putting this in for shock value, not necessarily for the art of it. How did you gauge that
I definitely say that the comedy style is a little bit more in that line. The reveal of what the tragedy is in the first 20 minutes is definitely a moment where you will go, oh, I am into this, or oh, I am not, and the mileage will vary for the rest of the runtime. But that ending sequence where the play is finally put on is so off the walls that if you don't like it, you have to at least respect it for what it's doing or trying to do.
I am so excited for this to come out. I will be in the theater on opening night.
Yeah.
And I almost asked, but I remembered that we talked about this. Lots of these films don't have production companies associated with them yet, so it really is kind of a toss-up on when they're actually going to be in theaters. Interesting. Okay. Another one that I'm excited to talk about because it's another topic that I love. Is it Ha-Chan or Ha-Chan Shake Your Booty? Incredible title. First of all, I mean, like, shake your booty. Love that. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so this is definitely one of the most energetic films. I'd say if you're a fan of Baz Luhrmann movies or La La Land, this is a very similar film in that vein. It's about ballroom dancing in Tokyo, where a married couple, Haru and Lewis, compete. However, after tragedy strikes, Haru is really withdrawn and really starts to wonder whether she can pursue this without her husband. But then she's brought back to the studio where she begins to fall for a new dance instructor in a whimsical kind of exploration of dance through tragedy. Okay, and it sounds very La La Land-esque, the kind of art and fine art versus tragedy and romance. What surprised you about this movie? I'd say it's definitely the choreography because it moves from a traditional drama structure to over-the-top dance sequences that are very over-the-top and stylized, where she'll be walking down the street one minute, passerbys will start dancing in the background, and I'm just breaking into a big musical number. Cool. So I wasn't expecting that, but loved it all the same. So is it characterized as a musical? I wouldn't say it is because it's not original music. It's a lot of different 80s and 90s pop songs that are translated into those musical numbers. So it's very fun, but not exactly an original musical per se. This sounds right up my alley. Okay, what did you rate it? I gave it a 4 out of 5. I was really surprised by this one just because of how whimsical and sweet it is, but also very emotional and poignant. It's being released later this year courtesy of Sony Pictures Classics, so this will be in theaters as well. Nice. Okay, I'm excited about that. Another one that I know I'm going to want to go see in theaters. And I think too, people can get hesitant who aren't a theater kid like me about musicals or dancing in film. But this one sounds like it's a little bit more approachable because I know La La Land was such a massive hit. I feel like that got people into it. Yeah, similar to La La Land. If you appreciated La La Land because it was a very good drama with just musical elements, this is exactly the type of film. Cool. Okay, love it. All right, next is another documentary, I believe, Nuisance Bear. Tell me about this. So what I love about Sundance is how great the documentaries are every year, and this is a very unconventional one because on paper, the premise, I mean, following a polar bear around for 90 minutes, I mean, how interesting could that be? movie, surprisingly very interesting because it's about a polar bear living in Alaska and about the effects of humanity and hunting on his homeland. So on that level, it's a very tense movie at that.
I was about to say, look at the baby. I know that's my, like, I love bears so much. I feel like this one, for somebody who's like me, I feel very empathetic towards all animals. Is it tough to watch?
Very tough to watch at times. It's very stylized and over the top, so it's very tense in how they portray the hunters chasing him throughout his land. Kind of like a Hitchcock thriller in a sense, where it's very action heavy and very prevalent. He becomes almost like a character that you feel and empathize with, and it's very interesting because he's not a traditional protagonist per se.
Yeah, and I like this too, the idea of following one singular animal around, because I know lots of nature documentaries, I've tried a few of them, and when you're going back and forth between like a few different animals, and I kind of get lost in their own little plot lines or like the nuances of their biology, this feels like a little bit easier to digest because you're sticking with the same character basically the whole time.
I think that's one of my main criticisms. Like, for example, the Disney nature documentaries back in the day, they followed like 5 different animals and it gets really hectic. This is like one of those, but just really focused and singular, and I appreciated that so much about it.
Cool. Okay, what was your rating?
I gave this one, I believe, a 4 as well.
Okay.
I really think it's different. It's not going to be for everyone, but if you really are interested, it's being released later this year by A24 in theaters.
Cool. Oh, A24. Okay, awesome. All right, next one is called The Baddest Speechwriter of All. This is a short film, right?
Short film, yes.
Okay, and for those who don't know, I think short films can get categorized in a few different ways to what's usually a runtime for a short film.
I'd say the most, like, for example, the category this was in was short film program 1. The rest of them were around 10-15 minutes. This is 30. So very different from the different kind of traditional short film structure, but it's incredible all the same, and also has a very unconventional filmmaker in Stephen Curry behind the camera, which is very interesting.
Tell me about this.
Yeah, so The Baddest Speechwriter of All is about Clarence Jones, who is now 93, as he dictates his life experience about being the lawyer and eventually speechwriter for Martin Luther King Jr.
So interesting, such an interesting concept. What did you think about?
Very interesting because it's very personal, because he's talking to the camera, and also his life is conveyed in animation moments throughout.
Right.
So it has a nice balance between the two, and it really just becomes a story about life, love, and happiness, and about impact on the world as well.
Now, Stephen Curry getting into filmmaking, because I know he's a producer on that new animated film, right? Goat, which looks adorable. I really want to see that too. But what did you think about his directing chops?
Very interesting, because he kind of teams up with another documentary filmmaker, Ben Proudfoot here. So it's interesting to see him kind of balance his relatability in terms of the sport with kind of impact on this person's life, and about his achievements as well. I think Stephen Curry has always been obsessed with achievements, and this film is about him kind of highlighting this person's achievements in that way.
I love it. Okay, what did you rate this one?
I gave this a 4 out of 5. It's so endearing, it's so timeless, it's so different from anything I've ever seen before. Audiences are going to love this. Hopefully it gets a distributor, because I would love to see it again.
I know, that's the one thing I think about with Sundance and other film festivals, the short programs that don't necessarily get a full theatrical release, and sometimes they're not released on YouTube or things like that. So hopefully this one gets picked up so everybody can see it. All right, next one is If I Go, Will They Miss Me? I know, a little bit of a topic turn. This one's pretty dark, right?
It is, yeah. It's very different. So I'd say the rest of them are very narrative focused. This is more poetic. So people aren't really into that. They're not going to love the structure. But if you love films from filmmakers like Barry Jenkins, for example, and Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk, I think you will love this one.
Okay, tell me what the plot is about.
Yeah, so this opens in the Watts neighborhood of South Los Angeles, where we follow little Ant, who is a young boy who has dreams of being an artist, and about his relationship with his mom, Lozita, played by Danielle Brooks, and his father, Big Ant, who has just been released from prison. And it's about that father-son relationship at the core of this story.
Danielle Brooks has been
really good.
Killing the game lately. She's incredible. Tell me about her performance.
Really, really charismatic, grounded, and charming. She has the sternness needed to really guide little Ant through his life, but also the compassion to really be there for him when he needs her.
It seems, just from what you've said, and then the way that the stills were that I got to look at, it seems very hyper realistic, like you're right there with them.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting is it's not just about their relationship, it's about the whole neighborhood as a whole.
Cool.
It really kind of takes on a documentary structure in times where sequences highlight the different residents of this neighborhood. It really becomes more personal and profound in that sense.
Nice. All right, what was your rating for this one?
I believe I give this one a 4 out of 5 as well. It's really one of those, it was a shock at this festival. I watched it on a day where the rest of the films weren't up to par in terms of quality.
Oh, interesting.
So this was that really lighthouse type film where I said, okay, this is what I love seeing at Sundance. Really, really love this
I have faith in art again. Okay, cool. I love that. All right, next one is called The Incomer. Tell me about this.
Loved this one.
Nice.
This is one of my favorites from the festival. Very different premise. I walked in knowing next to nothing and absolutely fell in love with it. It's an Irish comedy, so people need to know that going in. It transports you to a remote Irish island. We're introduced to siblings Isla and Sandy, who are isolated from the mainland and have spent their entire lives there. And then one day, a man termed as an incomer, played by Domhnall Gleeson, shows up, and he's actually an insurance agent sent to get them off the island at any cost necessary.
That is, I also like, I love Ireland, so anything that's set there, I am automatically in for. And Gleeson is so good in everything he does. I adore him. Why was this one kind of a shock for you?
Because I walked in, it was in the next category, and traditionally the next category holds the more experimental films that are really like interesting and out there. And so I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to this one not really knowing what to expect. But it's like very narratively focused and really kind of seeing what it is. But I ended up loving it.
Okay, cool. What did you rate this one?
I give this one a 4.5 out of 5. Definitely a standout comedy, very quirky, full of life. Great supporting cast, and overall just a really interesting tone, kind of like Monty Python, for example. That's very over the top, very fun.
And it's interesting because hearing the plot, you like that doesn't necessarily line up because it sounds like something that could honestly be a drama.
Yeah.
What how did they like manage that narratively?
I'd say that it really turns from comedic to serious with ease. In the beginning, you're introduced to the whimsical, fantastical creatures of the island, like seal men, for example, who are in the water that are very interesting and very over the top. But the ending kind of pivots to this really profound sense of family and like kind of relationships that really feels profound in that sense.
I loved it. Oh, cool. Okay, next is Time and Water. This is another documentary.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay,
absolutely.
Tell me
Two
about
glacier kind of Arctic-based documentaries this year, but
yeah,
I won't
interesting.
argue because I loved that and Nuisance Bear.
Right.
But this one's about Andri Snare Magnusson, an author in Iceland who was tasked with writing a eulogy for a dying glacier, which is dead due to climate change. At first, he's unsure of how to approach this eulogy because he never really knows what glaciers are, but he realizes that his grandparents actually both studied and fell in love with the kind of concept of glaciers and water study, and so he kind of contextualizes the dying glacier to his dying grandparents' relationship.
That is so interesting. And sometimes more of an experimental documentary like this because it's different from Nuisance Bear where like we got a topic, this is what we're
following it.
Exactly. For somebody who might not be into documentaries, why would you suggest they give this one a chance?
So Sarah Dosa's behind this one. She did a film Fire of Love, which released on Disney Plus last year or a few years ago. And I'd say it's very similar to that. It's not really experimental in that sense. The concept seems kind of out there, but I'd say once you get into it, it kind of follows a structure and you're able to follow it. But it really is about that methodical kind of contextualization of like love and romance, and really about dying relationships and about the people we hold closest to us.
Well, and I was gonna say, obviously, like love, relationships, death, things that everybody as a human can relate to. So usually, if those are thematically there, then there's
they'll
a
be able
good
to
chance
follow the kind of more experimental stuff.
Exactly, it's a little bit better of a through line for people to grab onto. Okay, love it. What'd you rate it?
I give this a 4.5. It's being released on Disney Plus and Hulu by National Geographic Documentary Films later this year. So it's a very good streaming movie.
Nice, love it. All right, this next one, again, a little bit of a topic change. We're going from like very sweetness to a bit of a dark one. Yeah, tell me about Josephine.
Josephine is the movie this year that people fell in love with at the festival. The premiere happened, I believe, one of the first nights, and every single screening the rest of the weekend was sold out. You could not get in. People are raving about this. Has awards consideration attached to it, which in January is usually a very big shock.
I was about to say that it's really early.
Yeah, very early for that, but I can see why after watching the film. This is by far the best film I saw at Sundance this year. I expect it to be a very big contender later on this year.
And it won a bunch of the awards,
It won a bunch of awards, yeah. So this follows a child named Josephine and her father, played by Channing Tatum, who go to a park early one Saturday morning to play soccer together. And while there, Josephine runs into a crime being committed at the park. She is the only witness, so it kind of follows that legal process of her having to go testify for this victim in court and really say what she saw in the park as well.
And Channing Tatum is not necessarily the person that you would think.
Yeah.
I still think of Channing Tatum as Step Up and Magic Mike. So seeing him in a role this dramatic, he's done them before. What was that like? What was his performance
Very
like?
different at first because I was expecting, because I've seen Channing Tatum in so many comedies recently.
Right.
I mean, I just saw one with him and Sandra Bullock called The Lost City. So
I
was like, oh, I'm expecting him to be funny in this.
21 Jump Street, yeah.
For sure, yeah. But this really shows a different side of his career that you haven't seen before. And I think people, if they don't love Channing Tatum comedically, they might like him dramatically, and very, very interesting mix here.
I know that it becomes like almost a trend on social media when Sundance happens to see how long the standing ovations were for certain movies. Obviously, if this one got...
I think it was pretty long.
Yeah, lots of acclaim. I'm sure it was a long one. Tell me, for people who... I love anything crime-related procedural, but this is obviously a really dark one. I know
Dark one.
Adolescence, the
Yeah.
miniseries, was tough for people to
For
watch.
sure.
Is it kind of a similar energy to that?
Yeah, so Sundance movies don't have ratings, but I would expect this one to get at least an R because they actually do show the crime on camera happening. Definitely graphic, hard to watch, but I think it's an important film about really standing up for what's doing right in society and really has a lot of impact. Mason Reeves, who plays Josephine, is incredible. I haven't seen a child actor that great in a while. I wouldn't be shocked if we get awards consideration for her. I think she's phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Okay, cool. What'd you rate this one?
I give this one a 4.5, easily the highlight of the festival. I think it's the one movie this year that people will be talking about at year's end. I think it's going to be a really impactful one.
That's really cool. You know, that's the only thing about Sundance that's frustrating a little bit. It's that we get all excited, we talk about these movies, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll have to wait months on it to see
wait until
them.
like July or August to see them.
Exactly, but write them down now, and then you'll be able to remember,
For sure,
take note of them. But you already got more of a sneak peek than a lot of other people got. Overall, what was your thoughts about the festival and kind of looking forward to the next year in film? Because I think Sundance kind of sets the tone,
Yeah,
right?
Sundance is usually the first major festival that really sets the tone for the rest of the year. I think we're in great hands, though. I think there's a lot of anticipated movies coming out shortly that I think will be a really big crowd pleaser for audiences, and I think this really gives a nice taste of what is to come.
I love it. All right, and Sundance, we forgive you, even though you're not here in Cincinnati. Whatever, we'll survive. Mitchell, as always, thanks so much for joining us. And thank you. We'll see you next time.
This has been Movies with Mitchell on Fox 19 Now Plus. Presented by Fox 19 Now.